Perspective is a great tool for artists to use. It is a systematic way for creating a drawing that gives the illusion of depth. So basically, it's almost like a formula. And I'm going to share with you what we call one-point perspective. One-point perspective uses only one vanishing point to make that illusion. Supplies that you're going to need. You're going to need 8.5 by 11 paper. If you have sketchbook paper, that works just fine. You're going to need a sharpened pencil with either an eraser or a separate eraser. You're going to need a straight edge. Does it have to be a ruler? No. You can cut a piece of hard cardboard if you would rather. Anything that is straight that will give you that edge will work. Optional, masking tape. All right. What happens with one-point perspective is that it's all based on the horizon line. And the horizon line is two things. It's where the sky and earth meet. That's what we normally think of when we think of a horizon line. But it's also eye level. So when I draw this, I need to think about where that person might be standing or sitting and their viewpoint. All right? I'm going to draw a horizon line that's not dead center because dead center is boring. So we don't want dead center. We're going to lift it up just a little bit. And basically for you, if you take your ruler and you slide it, like if you take it at the bottom and you slide it like so and kind of keep it straight, you will have a line that's pretty much parallel with the bottom or top of that particular piece of paper. Now, when I draw this, I want to draw as lightly as possible. So I am holding my pencil at the eraser end, and I'm just going to drag it right across. The reason why is because the horizon line is going to be a guideline. A lot of times it will get completely erased when I'm done. Now for this one-point perspective demonstration, I am going to be drawing the inside of a room. And guys, this is just kind of a generic inside of the room type thing. I want to draw the back wall. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. And I don't want that rectangle to be dead center. So I'm going to draw the box, and in terms of size, I don't want it humongously big because then I can't fit anything into my room, like windows and furniture and all that kind of good stuff. Alright, so, and notice I'm not measuring. If I really wanted to measure and be more specific, what I would do is I would take the top of this ruler like so and make a little mark, and that would be a 90-degree angle. This is just kind of a basic demo, and again I can do a 90-degree angle and I will have my box. This is all based on one point, right? So I'm going to place a vanishing point inside this box on the horizon line. That's the important key to this, is that point has to be on the horizon line. Do I want it in the center? Of course not, because remember, that's boring. I want it off center just a little bit. I'm going to make mine pretty predominant so that you can see it. Awesome. I want to connect that vanishing point to the corner of each of those corners right there and drag it out. But before I do that, let's have a discussion on density. I'm going to draw two lines. Line number 1, line number 2. Of these two lines, which one shows depth?
In other words, it looks like it's receding a little bit. If you said number 2, you're correct. That's called density. Density of line is line weight. And when you can control the line weight, it will make your depth more prominent. When I do this, I am lining up the vanishing point to the corner here. Does it go to the corner of the paper? Well, no. It might just fall that way, but in most cases it won't. So light, start bearing down, bear down. I now have density of line. Can you not see the depth that's starting to happen there? Lovely, right? I just love it. All right, so let's do that for all 4 corners. I want you to notice something else. I didn't start at the vanishing point. You know why? Because I would end up erasing all that anyway. If that helps you, yes, you can start at the vanishing point, just like so, but you'll end up erasing it because it's the back of our room. Now I'm going to leave that horizon line for right now, just because. That is the beginning of 1-point perspective. Now let's add some things. Let's start with something really, really easy, and that's a door. Now, a door. I have to walk through that door, right? So if I make the top of my door down here, I'm not going to be able to walk through it. Remember what I said about horizon line? Horizon line is eye level. That means Henry here. Henry. Like little Henry? That means Henry's head is right at that line, no matter how big Henry is in this room. No matter where he's standing, his head's always there because that's his viewpoint. That's what we have determined his viewpoint to be. That will help you in determining the tops of your windows, tops of your doorway. Anything that I draw that might be guidelines, anything at all, draw really light, and then you can go over them once you know where your actual lines are that you want to show. Okay, parallel right here. And I'm going to go straight up. I'm not drawing it very dark, and I'm just going straight up. I can go all the way up if I want, but I'm going to end up erasing the top of that door anyway. Now, I'm going to use where I stopped, because that's where I decided I wanted the top of that door. That allows him to clear. Might need to make it a little bit taller. Yeah. So I can clear his head, not bump his head, right? I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point and go out. But that's a guideline. Remember I said we might be erasing a lot. Now you need to decide how wide that door is. In our viewpoint, it's not going to be really wide. I mean, you could make a really wide door and it'd still be okay because maybe the builder built it that way. But I'm going to make it, in my viewpoint, about ½ inch. Voila. And then I would end up erasing this guideline right here. Voila. Love it. I'm also going to erase this extra little line here that I have for some reason, just because. And I'm going to erase the horizon line on that side, just so you can kind of see it. Now you're beginning to see a room with a door. Exciting. Well, Henry, here's his shoulders. Here's his arm, right? Henry has got to be able to open this door. So about between the horizon line and the bottom of the floor, so that's the bottom of the floor, that right there is probably a good place to put the door handle. Let's talk about foreshortening.
So, for foreshortening. If I hold up this ring right here, you notice it's a circle. But as I pull it towards you, that circle looks more like an oval. That's foreshortening.
When I draw my doorknob, I'm going to draw a foreshortened circle. I'm going to draw basically a little oval, put 2 lines on either side, maybe draw another oval here, like so, and there's my doorknob. Now, the part of that door is showing through. You might have to erase a little bit. There you go. Doorknob. Do all doorknobs look like that? No. So again, you'll have to do some observation to see what that really looks like. Let's continue. Now we're going to do something a little more challenging. Windows. I want to put in 3 windows. Now before I do that, let's talk about size relationship. Of those 2 sets, which one looks like it's going off into the distance? If you said the second set, yay! But now let's see if you can figure out why. There's at least 3 reasons why. And we've already talked about several of them. Give you a minute. You think. You said density, go to the front of the class, lighter as it goes off in the distance. If you said size relationship of these actual lines, wow, you're awesome. But it's also size relationship of the distance between these lines. There's more distance here than there is here, than there is here, than there is here, etc. Okay? I want my windows maybe to start about right here. Okay, so I'm going to start them right here. And I'm going to basically draw a guideline on the top. I don't know where they're going to fall exactly. I'm going to draw 3 windows. And again, these are guidelines, so I'm drawing them rather light. But I think that you can see them. They seem to be showing up pretty good. All right, what I want to do is decide how big I want the first window. I don't want it very big, right? And I'm going to draw that line. There's window number 1. But I know that window number 1, whatever I decide how close they are, like I could put the next window right here, no problem. But when I draw the second window, it has to be bigger than this measurement right here. So when I come through, I can't start it right there because I have to be that the same. I need to move it over a little bit. So I make marks. I make these little marks. I just need to do one at the top. I don't have to do them at the bottom because I don't know exactly where it's going to line up. Then the space between them, I can't make the gap here because that's the same as this gap. I need to make that gap bigger. There is probably a formula for being more exact in terms of how much distance those gaps are or how big those windows are in relationship. But this is an introduction, so we're just going to eyeball it. Now I'm going to make sure that the window number 3 is bigger than this area here and put my dot. Now I'm ready to drop those lines. And again, if you line up with either the edge of your box or the edge of the paper and try to slide it as evenly as possible, then you will succeed in getting those lines to be nice and vertical. One of the things that beginning artists do that doesn't work for them is they'll come over here and they'll end up drawing a line like this. Well, that's going to look really off when you look at your drawing. So make sure that you slide nice and even and drop. And erase between them, including the horizon line, like so. Now you can see all three of those windows, I think. This one's a little bit light, but remember we were trying to go for light so that, yep. Now windows, these windows look really flat. In fact, my door looks really flat. To be quite honest, we need to give these windows some depth. This is probably going to be one of the hardest things that you'll do on this drawing. I'm actually going to start with the bigger one just because I think you can see it better. I'm going to come through with a horizontal line and I'm going to make a rectangle. And that rectangle is going to be the thickness of that window. Okay, there's the thickness of that window. Where this corner is, right here, I'm going to take that corner to this vanishing point. I'm going to do it so that it goes through all three windows. And I'll show you why in a second. Very lightly. Here it is. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top. And of course, the further it gets back, the smaller things get, and the harder it is to kind of discern what you're doing. Now, what happens is when I put in the rectangle here and here, if I use this line and bring that in, then it will not only be in perspective, but it will be proportional to this one. And that's important. So, here we go. Here's that one. I'm going to go ahead and do this one while I'm here. This will work. Now I've got windows. And if you want to separate those windows out so they're not solid panes, you could put a little middle part in here, real easy. For me, I'm going to go ahead and erase the horizon line so it's not in there anymore. Now, if I wanted to notice that there's a pane of glass in there, and I'm only going to do it for one window, what I would do is I would basically divide this in half, like so. And again, use my vanishing point. And then I'm going to show you a really cool trick to just kind of give you the illusion that there's a pane of glass there. Voila. Take the side of your pencil and you can start. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to come into this area right here. You only want to go from this little middle line that I just drew over. And I'm going to do a few little zigzags. Like so. And you'll kind of get the illusion that there's a pane of glass there. More or less. Let's erase Henry here. We want to put in flooring. For whatever reason, this was always one of the most difficult things for my students to understand. Well, it's kind of like railroad tracks. If you're looking at it, it's got to converge to this point, right? So you want to do a little measuring. I want these wood planks to be even. It just so happens that the box that I drew lands at 2 1/4 inches. So I could make these at every 1/4 inch and that would work. Now, really in terms of proportion, they would probably be smaller. They would probably be one every 1/8 of an inch. But this is demonstration and we're just going to talk about it, right? So put your points, guide points. Then what you want to do is we want to come through here, line it up with the vanishing point and that guide point that you just did. I'm going to practice my density, but I'm also going to practice implied line. I'm going to throw something else at you. Because sameness is boring, it would be okay for these lines to skip a little bit, because as they go off in the distance, they kind of disappear, right? So what I'm going to do is line up the point with my guide point there, and as I do my really light one, I'm going to let it skip and then come down. So there's a missing line right there. My eye will finish that out for me. I don't have to do it for every line. I could do it for maybe a section of the floor, like there was a spot of bright white light there. Now I got really dark on that one. Do you see the difference? Okay, if that happens and you forget to use your density, take your eraser and just very lightly, you can just kind of brush on top of that a little bit and make those lines not quite so prominent in the back. And then you can also erase your little guide points because they'll kind of take away from your drawing as well. All right? Voila. Very cool. Let's talk about the ceiling. Let's do something creative and fun, like a recessed ceiling. Yeah. So, a recessed ceiling. What I'm going to do is it's going to have to line up with this part of the wall. So I'm going to bring that up and just put a point. Say, okay, I'm going to put a point right here. And that's where that's going to begin. And I'm going to come straight up and put a point there. So if I'm sliding, I've got one point a little higher than the other, so I'll just choose one of those. That's fine. And I'm going to come here and stop. Okay? Because I want that line right there to be the same length as the top of my wall. Now I am going to use the vanishing point, some density, and I should have made that back line a little bit lighter, but that's okay. We can lighten it, remember? Now you're going to have to decide how big you want this recess to be. You want to pull it out more, you want to have more than one little recess spot, either way you want to do it. But basically what ends up happening is you end up with a trapezoid at the top of your ceiling. Voila. Now at this point I can make it recessed. To do that, I'm going to pull this line straight up again, right? So here it goes, straight up, straight up. Decide how much recess I want. So I can make it smaller than that. So I can make it this big as I drew it, however you want to do it. And make your back rectangle. You'll notice that basically I'm repeating the same thing I did for these windows. Alright? Now, all I have to do is draw a line from here to there using my vanishing point. And so I'm lining up with the corner of that rectangle, and it stops when it gets to the top of that trapezoid. Voila! Oh. But what if, I like the what ifs, what if I want that to be a hole in the ceiling instead? This is really cool too. And we now have a hole in the ceiling. If you want to make it look more like it's a hole in the ceiling, you might want to do a little shading. And so you could shade a little bit here and pull out, and it would look more like it's going up and disappearing into that space. Right? Yay! There are a lot of things that you can do with the 1 point perspective now. We can add a table in here. We can add holes in the floor. We can add another window over here. So now it's your time to play and to see what else that you can come up with maybe a box coming out over here. I'm going to share with you another one-point perspective on drawing the hallway, which is something that we used to go do when we were at school, is go out in the hallway and draw. But for right now, this gives you the basics of how you can get started with one-point perspective.